Here begins our story, exposed somewhere on the reel of time. Te Waipounamu, Aotearoa, the South Island of New Zealand. Two mates, Ian and Torsten, roaming in a van left for despair, on the search for something. Something in the air, or the sea, or the mountains high above their heads. While their questions float, their eyes and bodies are fixed on these rich landscapes and the people that look after them. From farmland living and dreams of digging up gold to the illustrious waves of the south coast and snow-crested peaks of the west, these mates journeyed long and far, putting their intuition and wheels to the test. Our story begins in Kaimorowai, a name that references the three waterways that converge near Gibbston Valley, an old mining and farm town in central Otago. But it's too cold to pick rocks, or grapes for that matter, so the mates chase a weather phenomenon they are all too familiar with back in the States: snow. Ian made the trip down under a bit before Torsten, and Torsten hadn't heard a peep from him. The only thing he knew about Ian's whereabouts came from a news story on the Merino Muster, a 42-kilometre ski race on the only cross-country ski trails in the country. Just a hop and a skip from Gibson Valley.
We all just headed out. I'll definitely be back here. Yep. Race again.
As for Wright, he's heading stateside.
Hello?
Hey mate, it's Ian. How are you coming on a day like today?
What's up with you on the news?
Oh, that old thing. I just went out for a wee ski. When are you here?
It's only a matter of time. Save me a beer.
Aye! It's right here! Cheers!
Ian basked in his glory and hangover, and he left the valley to finish up the last of his so-called academic obligations. While Torsten arrived on the island as the fleeting winter days turned into glorious sunshine. So how did these two end up on an island together on the other side of the planet? Well, I'm still asking that myself. Somewhere in their journeys between sea and snow, they felt an urge to escape it all and travel to a land far beyond their roots, far out from their time passed underneath the stars.
When you're a shitty shearer like me, the sorting takes a bit longer, but you're still looking for the same thing: dags, sections of wool near the ass, where things get a bit crusty. This wool will go into your socks or tennis balls. The rest of it, well, it's like gold. 14.7 micron count merino wool, the stuff that makes up your fanciest Italian suit.
The dags get crushed out of it, because you've got quite a dark coloured product at the end of it. At the back end of the sheet, it's the most hardest wearing wool. So it's actually got really good properties leading back into hardware and so.
Ian arrived on the farm and the mates reunited in the only way they knew how: doing something stupid in the mountains.
Ian's confident that there's snow over this ridge. I have my doubts. Haven't found anything yet. We've come a bit of a ways.
The mates thought they'd better get their hands in the dirt of the place they would explore over the next 2 months, and what better way to start than by rock picking. After all, Jack Tiwa, a Māori shearer, found the gold nugget that started the valley's gold rush in soil much similar to the stuff these mates were picking through. There was a lot of land to cover, but the possibility of a little nugget covering gas money for the trip was all the motivation they needed.
Now, if we follow this way, we can find some gold.
The end of the day brought a cloudy judgment of thoughts past and fingers worn.
And when neighbor Jeff, an ex-pro rugby player with leather mitts for hands, heard that there were 2 scrawny Americans looking for an adventure, he invited us on our first pig hunt, a tradition and rite of passage for the Maori people. Pigs, along with a handful of other pesky mammals, are not native to Aotearoa and cause quite a lot of damage to native vegetation and animal life. Jeff made the rules clear. Only knives and hunting dogs to catch our first hog. A gun if things went south. We trekked into the bush and let the dogs out to track once Jeff found signs of pigs.
We were so grateful to Jeff for sharing his tradition with us outsiders, and carried his wisdom and knowledge of the land as the sun descended below the mountains in a haze of orange. Torsten and I had grown very fond of the farm life, and it wasn't easy to take off.
He's about to tell me his secret spot.
Speak now or forever. Hold your wool. That's all they got. Ow! Our narrator and good mate, Anzac, took us on some final adventures around Otepoti Dunedin. Claire, a good mate and fellow water person, was willing to have us over at her place to sort out some of the vant quirks and send us in the coastal direction.
Told me you'd hit the road a couple days ago, due south about as far as you could go.
The mates realised there was one more test they needed to complete before taking Paddy out on the open road. Luckily enough for them, Otepoti Dunedin is home to the world's steepest street. If they made it to the top, she was ready for the journey. If not, well, they didn't really plan for that. Let's hope she makes it up.
Ian and I were feeling pretty pumped to finally have the open road in our sights, and some wheels that could at least make it most of the way around Te Waipounamu. We were having quite the time trying to find all of our gear, but trusted that everything would eventually find its spot.
And just over the dune, things were starting to shape up.
The mates settled into their $7 chairs and watched their first sunset and fire on the road. Beyond a rough guide of surf spots and mountain runs, the mates wanted the freedom of the open road to guide their journey around the island. That way, their minds and schedules were always free to fully embrace the landscapes they travelled through and the people they met along the way.
It felt pretty surreal to spend our first night in the van under a full lunar eclipse, and we woke up feeling like there were endless possibilities. We thought back to a conversation with our mate Claire, pointing us towards a petrified forest not too far from our camp.
180 million years ago, the Jurassic era, this area was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, filled with a forest of cycads, ginkgos, conifers and ferns. A volcano erupts, burying all under a flood of ash. Silica from the ash permeates the wood and solidifies. Over time, the wood decays, the silica replaces it, the forest turns to stone. 80 million years ago, New Zealand separates fully from Gondwana. It spins off on its own evolutionary journey. Lacking land mammals, except for 2 small bats, it becomes the land of the birds. Kereru, tieke, kaka, and of course the tui, whose white neck tuft makes it look like it's always in black tie, and whose double voice box lets it harmonise with itself. Much of Aotearoa's flora and fauna is endemic, found nowhere else in the world, and much of it is under threat.
It has become pretty common down here to clear sections of bush to plant non-native species that grow faster, a practice that leaves the forest susceptible to erosion and acceleration of carbon emissions, a striking reminder of the beauty that our generation is willing to cut down for money and fuel.
Seeing old mossy forests knotted together by roots and vines or catching a glimpse of the deepest blue glaciers made us feel like passengers to this mature and wise land, recognizing that we are here for moments out of these trees and water's life cycles. I realized that preserving and caring for the land is the Kiwi way.
cicadas!
Some roads were covered quickly, and others with frequent stops wherever the eye saw fit. Shirts and sleeping bags were hung to dry, and fires were roasted late into the wee hours of the night.
Before I left home, my dad had warned me about the sandflies he ran into on the west coast. Nasty little buggers that love to chop skin. But I'm a born and raised Minnesotan who's felt the wrath of hundreds of mosquitoes biting from head to toe with a canoe over my head. There's no way these little guys would bother us.
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Oh, that's fucking gnarly.
Bro, get out. Get out.
Bugs.
Done with the bugs.
These little bastards must have smelled the sweet concoction of sweat, campfire, wetsuits, and plants that have been brewing in our van for a good while now.
And 36 kilometers today. And it was about 28 yesterday.
Yeah.
These last fucking 8K were the worst.
Hit like no other.
We were in the pain cave for way too long.
When the opportunity presented itself to get the grime off from a couple of weeks in the van, the mates took full advantage. And the natural bug repellent didn't hurt either.
1, 3, 2.
They were learning to adopt a life that revolved around the essentials, and certainly weren't missing the habits they left back home in the digital world.
These big running missions have the potential to bring out some of the most euphoric highs.
Cheeky bastards.
And all-time bonks.
After a long day in the mountains, the mates couldn't wait to get their feet up and crack open a cold one to celebrate the day's journey. They ended up down a bumpy coastal road in the hopes of a secluded spot to set up for the night. Ian had been dreaming of taking the van on the sand since the beginning of the trip and figured now was his chance.
We could definitely make it. Oh, fuck, man.
The exhaust is just fully hanging.
It was moments like these that made the prospect of a cozy bed with a home-cooked meal pretty appealing. But they were halfway around the world from their normal comforts, and that distance provided them with no other option than to get down on their knees and dig the damn thing out.
That's too classic. Yeah.
One thing about Aotearoa that never ceased to amaze Ian and Torsten was the ability of the landscape to change in a matter of seconds. And now that they were coastal, their minds were on one thing, and one thing only.
These days, we always seem to be camping on someone else's property. Here, we were waiting for a wave.
For two born and raised, landlocked mates, saltwater holds a mythical space in mind. Every mission to the coast is a mission worthwhile, and every wave cherished like it could be their last. They're having the time of their lives chasing waves out here, and it was taking them to some pretty special places too.
I was eager to try out a board that I shaped for the trip. But time and time again, we were reminded of how powerful the ocean is out here, and I didn't catch a single wave on the board's first session.
At this point, the mates had been living in the van for days on end, and they understood every riddle and facial expression they gave each other. It felt like they were speaking their own language.
What do you think?
It's a day for a doozy.
Surfing has always been a way to reflect on where I am and how I got here, with each wave feeling a bit more connected to the water and in tune with my own head. I was taking in the sunset and feeling pretty lucky to be in these waters. And while I was in the water, Ian was having a pretty different experience back on land.
There's a cute girl that just pulled up car next to me. She's thinking about she wants to surf. Looks like she doesn't because Tor is in the water. He smells bad. Go catch one. I think you're gonna get barreled on this one.
Look back.
You see that barrelage?
Yeah. Tor, can you hear me? Tor, mic in. I just got her number, and she kind of looks like this beautiful sunset.
This here is Pati Taxi. I got this match made in heaven, a 1995 MPV from a festival hopper who got it back in 07. She took me to the untouched parts of these islands, prompting speculation underneath a whole new set of constellations.
Taxi! Taxi! Pull over. Hey man, you need a ride?
Hop in!
With his new makeover and friends in tow, their journey started to feel like it was coming full circle. The mates were living their best lives on the road and finding people that treated them like family, all while spending dusk to dawn and dawn to dusk in environments that their eyes and mind will never forget.
So, where to next? Well, we could go.
couple days ago, due south about as far as you could go, with your sister helping her escape the cold. And back in a few days or so, well, that desert heat sounds like a dream to me. Such a shame you're leaving quickly as you came. Here's a thought, you're not missing much up here. You know the winter's tough. Why don't you settle in and stay a while?